In this election, Yiaga Africa deployed its process and results verification for transparency methodology, the PRVT. And what the methodology does is we look at a random sample of polling units, deploy stationary observers who stay at the polling units, from the commencement to the end of the process. And because we deploy to a statistically representative sample of polling units, we are able to release what we call estimates, the watching the votes estimates for the vote share that each candidate is supposed to get. This election is the 17th governorship election that we've deployed this methodology. Right. And we've also deployed it for 2 presidential elections in 2019 and in 2023, and they were all deployed successfully. What happened in the Edo election, for instance, we get results from the polling units, those sampled polling units. And because we apply statistical principles and technology, we are able to provide information that represents what happens in other polling units. For this election, the process of accreditation, voting, and recording of results at the polling unit complied substantially with the procedure. In other words, those processes were seamless and they were transparent. The challenge with this election was that when the results came to the collation center, in those 4 local governments that we highlighted, those results were manipulated, they were altered, and so some of the vote shares fell outside the margin. And this was actually across board. So the real issue with the election is the collation process. Right. And so results were altered. So a classic example, if you look at Oredo, for instance, there was a 10% increase in the results that was announced for the party that won Oredo. And those results, based on our analysis, clearly shows that they were deducted, from one of the parties and then added. So there were a lot of deductions and additions at the collation level. But at the polling unit level, the results and the votes that were recorded, they were recorded correctly. It was when it came to the polling unit. The second point was in places like Ikpoba-Awka, where the collation was disrupted. The guidelines is very clear that the stages of collation, from ward to local government and then to state. But what happened was that in Ikpoba-Awka, the collation was not done at the local government level, even though there was no provocation, because we had, in all the 18 local governments, we had local government collation observers who were there to observe this process. And you clearly see that there was a lack of transparency. And that is why those inconsistencies were spotted, because the beauty of the PRVT methodology is if in the course of the entire results management value chain, any results have been altered, the PVT is able to detect it because we rely on the granular results that comes from the polling unit.